Welcome back to TOT Star Wars. The boys are here today. We are starting a new series, the Book Club series. We're going to be going over arcs from the Clone Wars, reviewing them, giving them scores, talking about specific details, theories, stuff like that, giving our thoughts. How we feeling today?
Feeling amazing.
Ready to get this club started.
We are doing the Yoda's Journey, Sifo Dyas, whatever you want to call it, the final arc of Season 6, what was for the longest time the end of the Clone Wars before Season 7. And it is an electric one. So we're going to start with a score. We don't know each other's scores. We're going to say it on 3, and then we'll talk about it. So 1, 2, 3.
9.2.
7-2.
Okay, me and Stone with a tight grouping there. Rob, you want to kick it off? Why you went low?
Yeah, I mean, it's more so kind of just like a knock on the Clone Wars as a whole. And it's not even like a Clone Wars fault. Like the Clone Wars is very good. But if you look at how all these answers come in episode 3, it kind of locks the Clone Wars into not having like giving any answers, if you know what I'm saying. If you look at it, all like it's a bunch of fights that don't lead anywhere, or in this case, in this arc, it's fights that aren't really real. It's more so just like hallucinations by Yoda, but they're just not significant because they can't, like, you can't, it's Count Dooku versus Obi-Wan and Anakin a bunch of times that are just like nothing can happen because no one can die because he doesn't die until episode 3. And that it's just a bunch of stuff that can't be concluded just because it has to conclude in episode 3. I like the filler, but it's just a lot of like
it just adds a lot of layers. It adds a lot of
it adds lore. And I appreciate it. I don't think it's bad.
Filler.
I don't know if it's I wouldn't say it's bad, but like imagine because I wasn't one of these people, and I know you were, Finn, one of those people that you think that's the end of the Clone Wars, because like it basically was for a good bit. And you're left on that with a lot of like half baked answers. Is all I'm saying. It's not like full answers.
So. I mean, it made sense at the time, to me at least, why it was kind of the ending. Because like before that, Ahsoka has all that stuff happen to her, getting exiled. So for me, it made sense going into episode 3 with Ahsoka. We don't even know who Ahsoka is. So I didn't mind that ending back then. But I gotta disagree. It's not filler. You get to learn how Yoda and other Jedi have learned how to be an entity after death and like how to be one with the Force. So you have that. Then you also get to see Darth Bane. That's where it gets into the 9s for me, seeing like the old Sith, especially like a staple like Darth Bane, an original
unbelievable
of the original creator of the two rule, so that's why I gave it a strong 9.2. Finn, I'd love to hear why you're also giving it a high 8, good praise. 8-9.
Very, very high score. 8-9 is a very high score. There's only maybe 1 or 2 arcs that I would put in the 9s, and 8-9 obviously is right on the cusp. I thought this was riveting television. When I watched it when I was 14, I remember the season came out on Netflix. It was riveting television then. It's electric television now. I think it's so well done. And to your point, Ron, I kind of see like 1% of where you're coming from. And the way that you're able to make things impactful is by explaining things in extreme detail, which this arc, I think you learn more about whether it's the Jedi or the Sith or giving you leeway in episode 3 than almost any other arc. And that's why we started with it, because it's such a legendary arc and it's so electric. For the first episode, real quick off the top, just want to start off with the Pikes. I love the Pikes. I think the crime syndicate is one of the coolest parts of Star Wars. So unexplored. I know they did a pretty good job of it in Solo. It was in Boba Fett a little bit, whatever. But the shadow government, the Pikes, all that stuff to me is so cool. And the whole idea of Sifo Dyas, it all getting uncovered piece by piece by piece, was so interesting to me as a child and now. I just thought it was such a good way to start the arc off. Obviously, I know what you mean with Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting Dooku for the 1000th time.
That's one of the things I didn't like, is that they go to the crime syndicate Pikes. They don't really do a whole lot with the Pikes. And then once they come so close to figuring out this like Sifo Dyas thing, like Dooku comes in and then just like ruins it. And then nothing happens out of it.
But what if you had never seen Star Wars and you watch the prequels in chronological order with the Clone Wars.
Then that is awesome. But that's not the case for most people, is what I'm saying. Like, that's cool because you don't know all the answers. But when you have all the answers, I'm not blaming the show. That was never my intention. It's a great show. It's like handcuffed basically from like being able to do anything like crazy. Like it.
Would you say the same thing about Rebels?
No,
I mean, they gave Anakin a Padawan. That's pretty crazy. I mean, I wouldn't say they're handcuffed.
No.
The exact same situation as Rebels. It's filling in the gap. I mean,
I wouldn't say so because afterward they just came out with the show that Ahsoka is kind of like the sequel to that. So there's answers that are like, where's Ezra? Like all of that. For the Clone Wars, it's episode 3 is the answer to everything.
Stone, how fired up were you on Plo Koon in that sick costume?
The opening shot? Unreal. It's hard. They're on Felucia,
I believe it's on
yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
And you know me,
100% on Felucia.
Big lightsaber guy. Love when lightsabers get love. And it's all about him finding Sifo Dyas's lightsaber. So basically, for anyone, if you haven't seen it, Sifo Dyas goes to meet with the Pikes. He's shot down. They cremate his body, allegedly. This is what the Jedi
Him and another
thought.
Jedi.
It was the guy. Jedi. That's the guy they were getting when Dooku came in and just ruined it.
Right. So then they get intel about that, whatever. They go to the planet to check it out. They meet with the Pikes. They get some good information. And Dooku has a conversation with Sidious that me and Stone both thought was fire.
No, that's cool. That was really cool.
We talked about that before we recorded, where he chokes the out of him through the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he basically tells him, if you failed, you know the repercussions.
He's like, you've come short too many times.
Yeah, and he does it again.
It's so electric. And it's interesting to think about. I kind of had this realization for the first time rewatching this, really taking notes and paying attention. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I think at this point, the Jedi think that Dooku's the Sith Lord.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I've never thought about that
until they hear him go by Tyrannus.
Until 2 episodes.
Yeah.
You are the man called Tyrannus?
I told you everything you needed to know on Geonosis.
The realization comes like, oh, wait.
But that's that's an insane thought, though, that I guess you could make the assumption that the kid Obi-Wan killed was Darth Maul, who was the apprentice of Dooku, and Dooku's the Sith Lord. Like, I could see that.
Yeah. So do you think they're under the impression that Dooku was the other Jedi that was with Sifo Dyas when he got shot down?
No.
Because that was like a mystery for like a second.
Yeah, they had to go to Madame Jocasta Nu to get those details about the lightsaber hilt or whatever it was, or the flight logs or whatever. That's just so weird to me to think about because of how established it is in our brains that Palpatine is the Sith Lord, that like the Jedi actually thought that Dooku was the main Sith. Wow.
Yeah, that'd be hard. That'd be hard to write in general. Just, already knowing that kind of stuff. The Jedi and that.
This is a Filoni. Filoni did this by himself. This is a Filoni arc. The guy who was on the flight is Silman, and we're going to get into Silman in a little bit, but Silman is a very weird character. I thought he was just an absolute freak. But lastly, just to put a bow on this episode, I thought it was sweet how Yoda says they have to play the game with the creation of the army. He says something like this at the end of the last episode, which we'll talk about later, but he says something along the lines of like, they're trying to figure out the stuff with the army. They're thinking Sifo Dyas was so powerful in the Force that he foresaw they would need an army. So he planned the army. Like that's what they think at that time. But Yoda just says we have to play the game and go along with it, which is so not unlike him as the Jedi Grand Master, but like, it's just definitely interesting to see all these inner workings of the council and all the politics within the council and stuff. Like that's stuff that is super, super cool.
And that's why Sidious is the best chess player, because either way, he was going to win, really, with the army leaving or them going with it. But the whole Sifo Dyas thing in this whole arc, that's one of his – it's a loose end or like a trail that he had not covered up. One of the many –
Probably the only.
Yeah, I think the only one he didn't cover up. So it's interesting to see how seriously he took it, and there's no option for failure.
So talking about the council, we'll kind of go into episode 2 here, which I thought episode 1 was the weakest of the 4, even though it was great content and it was very cool. I just think the next 3 are such bangers. But the Jedi Council not – so when Yoda's encountered by Qui-Gon Jinn or whatever, the Jedi Council not believing him and Ki-Adi-Mundi thinking that it's a Sith Lord trying to possess him is also very interesting to me. Like, that's your Grand Master. And I get it's like a sum of the masses thing where you are a council for a reason. It's not just one person, it's a democracy. But I mean, you got to go with Yoda's feel on that.
He's like, oh, well, he had a connection with Dooku, so it's probably just Dooku controlling him. That's just lack of faith there. I really lost some respect from Ki-Adi-Mundi right there when
you gotta ask those. Someone's gotta ask it though, you know. Like,
I guess.
Yeah, I know. It was
that's
cool
how
that
Jedi are.
The whole Dooku thing with Ki-Adi-Mundi saying that is what starts the dialogue that he is the Sith Lord, which he's obviously not. It's interesting that also Qui-Gon's the first Force Ghost. Is that true?
That's my question.
Why is
Qui-Gon? Why is Qui-Gon the first Force Ghost? Like, it makes no sense. When did he go through that training? When did he go through all that Yoda went through to get the knowledge for it?
I don't know if you can say ghost yet though, because he's not like you can't physically see him. He's just an entity. He's not Force Ghost yet. He hasn't completed that part of his training.
They say he's the first person, the first Jedi to figure out life after death, basically, or like using your Force after death.
Yeah, him in Kenobi, I believe, at the end of Kenobi, I believe, is the first appearance of any Force Ghost in the Star Wars canonical timeline, I think. And to answer the question, that was
when he sees. Okay.
But my question is, how is he the first Jedi to figure out this? They call it 2 different types of Force. It was living force and the other like natural
organic.
I don't think it was organic, but the other Force, he's the first Jedi to figure it out, and I don't understand why Qui-Gon gets that title.
So I don't have a definitive answer on that, but I will say Qui-Gon is more powerful than a lot of people give him credit for.
I get that. I get that he's powerful, but my whole thing is that Yoda is technically more powerful, and it's proven that his midichlorian count is higher than Qui-Gon's. So he's already a more powerful Jedi. And then I got it.
Don't let me lose my train of thought. Hold on. I think the Wills picked Qui-Gon because the Wills control everything, which we're also going to get into in a minute. The Wills are the people with the masks. The Wills picked Qui-Gon because he was very close to Yoda, and they needed someone. Think about canonically, Yoda dies in 20 years.
20, yeah.
So if you're dying in 20 years at the end of a 900-year life, you're very close to the end of your life. And the Wills know that. They know that the most important person they know the Jedi are about to undergo all this turmoil, and they know that Yoda is going to die soon and whatever. You need a way to teach him. So I think Qui-Gon was almost randomly selected as a surrogate, as powerful as he was, but to be the one to teach Yoda, to teach everyone else through the Wills. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, and also that might explain how Qui-Gon lost to someone like Maul. You know, but how
all the will of the Force
happens for a reason. Yeah.
So, and then you think about him being able to teach Obi-Wan, who then is able to help Luke, which is a huge reason. So it's all correlated. I think it was just he was the closest person to Yoda who died recently, and very wise combo deal, and that would be the reason. That's a good question, Rob. That if I didn't think about it, I wouldn't have had an answer for that. Back to the epi real quick. I loved Anakin helping him sneak out. Thought that was so funny. That's just great that Yoda has like a mischievous task and he goes right to Anakin.
But also too, like Anakin helping him sneak out was like nothing. Like they just walked down the hall. And then he's just
so on brand now.
He literally just like walks him down the hall and he's like, thanks for letting me sneak out.
That's so true.
But that's so on brand for Anakin to be the one to do it, even if there was no sneaking or jumping or whatever. And then obviously
he even says it. He's like, you're the best at defying orders. So
alone, even less.
Disobeying the council, your expertise is. That is why I ask for your help.
Qui-Gon needs Yoda to go to Dagobah, so he tells him it's time to go. Whatever, get in your ship. And R2 saddle up, Anakin gives him R2, and they head to Dagobah. Now, I think it's also funny that R2 has now been to Dagobah. So when he goes with Luke, like he knows, and I just rewatched A New Hope a couple of days ago, so I was thinking about this too. He has served so long with Obi-Wan. It's so interesting when he interacts with Obi-Wan. I was paying attention to see if he was doing any little tells to be like, I know him or whatever, but I didn't notice anything. But like the fact that he's been to Dagobah, he's met Obi-Wan, whatever, like that shit's just so funny to me that R2 just always plays it cool the second time around. Like he doesn't blow up the spot.
Well, he's a droid, so I mean, but at the same time though, he's got a lot of emotion, so I could see where like
He's a vocal droid. He's a little fucking troll.
Yeah.
He's like pre-chopper. But yeah, so he gets there, whatever. He enters that cave, which I also think was cool because I looked at footage from Empire Strikes Back. I think it's the same cave that Luke went in. I also wouldn't be surprised if Filoni did that because he's a nerd. But if that is, then that's pretty sick. Because then Yoda says to Luke that the cave, whatever, dark side, very strong in there. Luke says, what's in there? And Yoda says, only what you bring with you. He says that in The Empire Strikes Back. So I think
cave.
Yeah, but that's just so sick that he knows from the trials that he had in there that because he brings the dark side in there, which we're about to talk about in a second, but what's in that cave is only what you bring with you, which is such a hard quote.
It's like your baggage, yeah.
So he gets in there. There's the crazy like swirl force vision. Easter egg alert. You see Shakti get stabbed by General Grievous, which is a deleted scene from episode 3. So sick.
Officially like happens in the Jedi Temple right now, but it was originally on Grievous's ship.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so Anakin kills her during the Purge, but originally he was like holding her on the Malevolence, and then because he captures her in the 2D Clone Wars, and then he kills her right in front of Anakin and Obi-Wan or whatever, and Anakin goes, "You're gonna regret that," or whatever.
She's had a lot of deaths.
Bro, she's died more than I might make a short about that.
Who killed her better, Galen Merrick or
Robert White in bed?
Look at that. Look at that deep pull from Rob there, pulling out the Star Killer kill. That was very impressive.
Grabbing her tentacles.
Yo, chat, clip that. But yeah, so episode 2, I think, was the second best episode of the arc. It was a great episode. Seeing the Dagobah stuff was mad cool. I really liked also the day-long meditation the council does. I thought that was fucking dope, just as a concept that they would do that. That's kind of sweet. But yeah, so in episode 3 comes, he goes, talks to the Wills, whatever, and we get an interaction with Darkside Yoda, which this was so cool and so interesting to see a physical representation of the dark side. You guys have any opinions on that? Because this is one of my favorite scenes from the entire arc.
We're gonna butt heads here, but
That's okay.
I didn't mind it, but it wasn't that cool to me.
The message is what's cool.
The message is cool, but like the representation of the dark side just being like a shadow.
Yeah, he definitely copied Legend of Zelda Water Temple.
Like I wish it was.
Ooh.
Wouldn't it be cool if we got like an alternative Yoda? Actually, like it's not just. It just seems exactly what you expect it to be, like some dark entity that's haunting him, and then he fights it. But that was cool. No, I like it, but it's just they could have done it a little cooler, in my opinion.
I respectfully disagree
strongly.
I'm going to respectfully disagree, and that's fine. That's why we have this pod. I'm going to respectfully disagree, and that's fine. We can both go about our days with that being a disagreement. But the only way he wins the fight, he's trying. He's saying that my dark side doesn't exist. I don't have any darkness, whatever. But once he finally admits that there is darkness in him and he has to control it, he kills it, which is so sick.
The whole time he thought he was in control because he was like, because I don't believe this, it's not true. And that was feeding it.
Right.
Because he's denying it.
So that was the first test from the Wills, which he passes by acknowledging that he has darkness in him, but he can control it. The second test is a vision. There's 2 paths that are showed to him. It's like Ahsoka dying right on the ground, and she's like, "Someone save me" or whatever. And
that was in the temple, right?
Yeah, it looks like it's in the Jedi Temple.
But he passes that because he knows this is an illusion. I can't save her right now. She's not dying. And Tootie comes out of nowhere, that chick from the Youngling arc, which we also will do a book club on because that's one of my favorite arcs. And she's like, "Let me show you the other side." So she takes him out to the garden of the temple. And this scene is, I mean, some of these are masterpiece scenes.
Yeah, is it the first time you see Qui-Gon in Clone
Yes.
Wars animation,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes. And that is so sick. Jedi Dooku, you see ADI Garcia, the chick who gets killed by Savage Opress.
Yeah, you also see the chick that got killed by the clone trooper that got, remember? You know
The
what I'm
rogue, yeah, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You guys can check me on this. This is why we have 3 knowledgeable people on here so that we can cross-reference. This was just a theory on my end. I caught this also for the first time watching this. After he's starting to get a feel for it and he's like peaceful or whatever, and he's like looking around and Obi-Wan's like telling some story and then Dooku's telling some story. Then they go down those stairs and Dooku turns around and he says, "Join us, Master." And for some reason, because the test ends right there and Dooku like attacks him, I feel like that's the dark side saying to Yoda, "Join us." And he declines to walk down the stairs. Do you know what I mean? Or is that a big reach?
I didn't think of it like that at all, but I like that. I like that.
That's
thought
how I
process.
thought. That's how I thought of it. Like
Okay.
I thought of it like every single test was that too. Was the dark side in a way extending their hand, saying, "Hey, join us. Very powerful." Like, and
Awesome.
kind of like if you don't, like, this is what's gonna happen. Everyone's gonna die. But if you do, then everything's gonna be good, and we can bring everyone. You know what I mean? That's how I saw all the tests.
Awesome. Okay.
And it's crazy how old he is, and he still wants to learn, and he still wants to go through stuff like this. You know,
He's very open to learning from the Wills. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought that was, I mean, you want to talk about writing and sneaking stuff in and executing it on screen. That is so cool, the way that they sneak that in there. And right when he says, "Join us, Master," he goes, "No, an illusion this is. Killed on whatever you were, killed on Naboo you were, Qui-Gon," or whatever. And it all starts spiraling from there. So I thought that was awesome. So he passes that test and the episode wraps. I hate to do it in order like this, but I think that is the second best episode in the arc. It literally just goes right down the line.
I'd agree. I think 3 and 4 are interchangeable. I think they're both good. I like 4 better personally, but
4. Are we getting into 4 now?
We're going to get into 4 right now. That's exactly what we're going to do.
So, in my opinion, before we get into it, 4 clears as the best episode. It's just not even close.
Okay. I agree, but I think 3 is very good, but I do agree that 4 this is one of the best episodes of Clone Wars.
yeah, it's probably top
Totally.
15, top 10.
Why do they
So-
always make the best episode the last episode of the season? Season 7, like
Dave Filoni's
that
a
might
little
be
mug.
best episode. That might
I
be the
think
best episode of the
one
Clone
of the-
Wars.
One of the first episodes with the moon base is one of the best, where Heavy dies. That's one of the best episodes.
That's fucking it's a
That's like
tearjerker.
episode 1 or 2 or something.
Is that the one where
The assassin droids come in? Yeah.
yeah, that one's sweet. And
And
he's
he hits
like
the button. He hits the
Yeah,
button.
and then he
You gotta review
explodes
that. Hey, book
he-
club fans, that is an arc that will be coming. It will be
Yeah.
highly requested.
Dude, yeah,
in my thoughts.
that one like is early on. How it's crazy how early on they're just like, "I'll die for my brothers," and then just
People
pushes the
people say early Clone Wars sucks and it gets better towards the end. They couldn't be more wrong. I always say that episode when people tell me that. I always go back to that episode.
Such a
Anyways,
good
back on
episode.
track.
We won't get
Episode 4.
Well,
we
we're
won't
gonna
get
talk.
too off topic here though.
We're gonna talk Darth Bane. We're gonna talk Darth Bane. I mean, Stone. I'll let you start it off, Stone. That's just masterclass.
I mean, how it comes in with the snake at first. When he comes what's the Sith planet called again? Mordor?
Yeah.
Warband.
Morban. I just said Mordor. That's
Nice
Lord of the
pull,
Rings.
Rob. Nice pull.
That's Lord of the Rings. No, yeah. So like when you go there, you instantly get the eerie vibe that it's a place he's not supposed to be. Sidious even gets the feeling like he knows he's there. You know, that's how strong of a dark side connection Sidious has with that place. Yada yada. But long story short, I mean, you see Darth Bane, and when I was a kid at first, I don't know who the hell this guy was.
Same.
And it took me like to get to an adult to really dive deeper into the lore to really appreciate this episode. So as a kid, I don't really appreciate it that much, but I mean, you could see Darth Bane, the creator of the Rule of Two, And Yoda, and he asks, like, do you know who I am to Yoda? And Yoda says, yeah, I know who you are. So that shows, again, how knowledgeable Yoda is. Yeah. Yoda really, truly knows all. And the fact that he's still willing to learn for not only himself, but for the Jedi as a whole is awesome to see.
You felt some type of way about that, Rob? I mean, I felt,
Yeah.
I just really like how he explained the rule of two, how basically he was like, do you know who I am? The reason there's a rule of two is because of me. There was too much power going along. So I killed everyone off and only allowed one to be under me that I train.
But this is where he's starting to think about Dooku not being the Sith Lord, in my opinion.
I like that too.
I can see that.
This is where he's starting to be like, all right, like in episode 1 of the arc, Dooku tells Obi-Wan, like, all that stuff I told you on Geonosis was 100% true.
I told you everything you needed to know on Geonosis all those years ago, Kenobi.
And then here, Bane is telling Yoda, literally, there is a Sith Lord. Like, they're just revealing so much in these episodes to the Jedi that it's almost like, I mean, it ends up working out, but it's just interesting to me how, like, open they are to dialogue about that kind of stuff.
I think it makes sense because it was originally supposed to be the end of Clone Wars, and it's going into episode 3. And
right.
The beginning of episode 3 is where Dooku dies. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense to why they did it that way, in my opinion.
And you know this is towards the end.
The reason I agree with you, Finn, that's when Yoda starts to think that there is an actual Sith Lord and it's not Dooku, is because right after that is when it goes into his like final test of fighting the Emperor. And that's what I kind of want. I don't know if there's anything else anyone wanted to add, but this scene specifically, the way that it's shot when he just starts off in the gunship, there's no angle in the Clone Wars that is anything like that. It's like an upward angle on his face. It's so weird. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but the angle that they're doing in, it's so crazy. Like, it makes you feel like you're sitting in the gunship with him. And it's because it's like you're like looking like right up at him, like at his face, and it's just the Anakin over his shoulder and some clones. Like it was the way that's shot in the beginning, like, is so insane to me.
It's really
that's why they won awards. They won awards for their animation back then.
And I saw an interview with Filoni talking with George Lucas where George was saying these are made for the big screen. The Clone Wars TV show is a movie. We're shooting it in movie style, and it was such a pain for these animators and like associate directors and everybody because George has such a specific vision of how he wants stuff shot, even in animation. But yeah, like you see the red lights of the gunship, and he's like, "Where the fuck are we?" And Anakin's like, "Are you good, bro? Like, what are you talking about?" That was so sick.
He's clueless, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Clouded, I am. Clouded by good
clouded by the dark side, I am." Yeah.
And Rex is standing there looking badass in the 501st, and then you're watching it, and you're like, "Dude, we're about to get a raid on that building from episode 1, and where Yaddle gets killed in Tails." And you're like, "Holy shit!" Like I remember the first time I was like, "No way." This has to be a vision, but even so, like, this is still insane. So you see them pull up, you see the hooded Emperor or Dark Lord or whatever, and that's the moment that Yoda now knows there is a Sith Lord who's controlling everything, who's not Dooku.
Yeah, we didn't go over the fact, though, that we have Dooku and Palpatine in his quarters, whatever that, like, back room is, where he's like, watch this, babe. He's like, basically just goes, watch this, and just starts like manipulating Yoda. He's like getting closer, figuring out who I am. I'm about to manipulate him, and then just like starts zapping the
Takes the drop of blood.
Yeah, he takes the drop of blood from Duke. Oh, that's it too. Yeah, he's like, I need to get closer to him. You know him on a different level. Give me your blood.
He's like using the goblet of fire too.
Yeah, and then they both start lightning it, force lightning.
Dude, I thought Rex died. I thought Rex died the first time I watched that when he got shocked. I thought it was all like real.
I remember being very confused as a young bull.
Well, then when they showed Anakin killing Dooku like that, I knew it was a vision, though.
I remember being hella confused when I was younger.
It's basically Yoda being told exactly what's going to happen, I think. This is what's going to go down, and you can't do anything about it.
Right.
That's what I think.
Yeah, and so they start fighting. Anakin hits Dooku with the leg slash, head combo. Yoda turns and goes, "No!" Which is a dichotomy of, in episode 3, when Sidious is like, "Do it." In the same situation, Yoda is like, "No, don't do it."
Yeah.
And then you can see Anakin is, if Yoda's here and Sidious is here, Anakin is here because he's like, it's not the Jedi way. I shouldn't do it. Like he's like, I know I shouldn't do it, but he's like, I want to do it. And you see, that's another seed planted of Anakin turning to the dark side is he starts to lean more this way, more just that's more of just. So anyway, they start fighting. They go out on the bridge on lower levels of Coruscant. First of all, what scene? You know me, I love a platform fight. I've always loved a platform fight. Platform fights are electric. Every time they're above something, like infinite falling or whatever, so sick. And yeah, Anakin gets the shit shocked out of him, knocked back or whatever. And again, and this is why I say Yoda is a better duelist and more powerful than Sidious, because he's low-key besting him in this fight.
Dude, he's holding him off while like holding Anakin up. Like he's basically like, I'm fighting you with one arm right now, and you can't even push me back.
And you can make an argument that he low-key wins that fight in episode 3. And the only reason he leaves is because it's not the time. Like that entire battle, he's overpowering Sidious, and he has Sidious on his heels. Sidious is the one who's running away. I think
and he's not. Sidious got him not in his prime.
No, of course not. But in a closed room with them two, I think Yoda walks out. It's a conversation for another day. But yeah,
Anakin got in the way of that fight, if anything.
Right.
100%.
If he wasn't there, 100. That's what I'm. Dude,
liability.
Always has been, always will be. But yeah, so Yoda's holding him up, and again, you guys could check me on this if you don't agree. I feel like from a pen to screen type of writing, like Anakin in that moment is the Jedi Order symbolically, and Yoda's holding up the entire Jedi Order while fighting the darkness. And that's why the final test, when Palpatine's like, just kill him. You could end this all right now.
Why not let him go? Let him die, and you can stop all that I will do.
He knows it's so much, the vision is showing him that that's the choice he has to make for the entire Jedi Order. And he holds him up, says, willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, I am. And he puts the lightsaber away and puts him over on the little walkway, and then throws his lightsaber, which was so sick, cuts it down, and they start falling.
Yeah, and the Sidious is like in his face, like while he's falling, like
you can never see his face.
I know, because Yoda's trying to take the hood off, right?
And
then as soon as he gets it off,
it's the hood off.
He's gone because he leaves the cauldron. He leaves the right because he enters.
He's like,
vision.
We failed. He's like basically like Yoda's still too. He literally
so trippy,
admits,
bro.
Literally admits he's like Yoda's still too strong.
We have failed to break Master Yoda. He is strong. We will need more time.
Dude, it's trippy because then you realize it's a vision, and Dooku and Sidious joined in his vision, you know?
Right. And if they hadn't pulled away at that exact moment, he sees who the Sith Lord is. So that's why it's a masterpiece, bro. Like it's so perfectly written, and then there's a difference between great writing and then being able to execute it on screen. It's so well done on screen, and like that moment where he pulls the hood off and it's just the cloak, you're like, God damn it. But like Rob said earlier, it has to be that way. With the fact that it's bookended with movies. It has to be that way.
But in a way, I mean, Rob, you mentioned this is filler earlier. To me, it's not. It's showing how because if you just watch episode 1, 2, and 3,
filler was a very poor word to describe it.
Let me finish. If you just watch the episode 1 to 3, you're like, oh, the Jedi are stupid for not realizing that it was Sidious. But this shows that even the most powerful Yoda tried, came very close, but ultimately failed because Sidious is the ultimate chess player.
No, yeah. I'm gonna pull back in my statement earlier. Lore or filler was the wrong word. It's lore. It's lore. That's what it is.
That's fair.
Rob hates lore. He hates it.
Rob hates the Clone Wars.
That's
the title of the clip. Rob calls the greatest arc in Clone Wars filler. You just put a microphone on this kid and you're going to get something like that. When you said that, I was really looking for this to be positive crew tonight. Like, we've gone at it before. This is a beautiful arc. Really want to just have a great open dialogue right now. Hashtag positivity. When you said that earlier, I was just like biting my tongue. I was like, all right, I'm just going to let that one slide so we can get into the heavy here.
Hey, I was playing. I got to bring it up later. I was like, hey, no,
I was
Dude,
about to plug
someone
mine.
and also a 7-2 score is not a bad score at all. So
it's terrible. What are you talking about?
Are we going to get into
Barely
that?
passing. That's
Very
barely
low
passing.
score.
It's crazy.
I'm excited
All
to see what you score the rest of the arcs. But yeah, so Yoda, he comes back to, and he has one more conversation with Qui-Gon. And you might have missed this if you weren't paying attention. Speaking of clip that, somebody clip this. Yoda hears his last words from Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon says, there is another
Skywalker.
And
That part is
just
sick.
ties everything, like the fact that also could speak to what you were saying, Rob, of why Qui-Gon, because he just had to be the body to give it to Yoda, because the Wills are telling him his last words after he passes all the tests. It's a double entendre of there is another Skywalker. So you pass these tests, you're rewarded with this answer. There is another Skywalker. He will help Anakin bring balance to the Force. And then you're also told your last words. I thought that was,
It's Loki, like, because, Qui-Gon found Anakin, thought he was the chosen one. It's Loki, like him saying, like, hey, I wasn't completely wrong.
right. Dude, I had to slip this in from beyond the grave.
Hey, it might have looked bad and I'm dead, but hey, I'm like kind of still right with the whole Skywalker thing. It's another one.
I knew I had a feeling on that planet. Like, I know I'm dead, but I just wanted to slip this in there through the back door. But I love also when the council asks Yoda, low-key, like, where have you been? He's just like, no, nowhere, just wherever. Like, it makes it pretty uneventful.
No, it wasn't
Not much
bad.
there is to say of my journey.
What did you find out? And he was like,
Right.
nothing. We're screwed. Basically, he's like, we're screwed. Nothing good.
Yeah, he sees the future. He sees, like, Anakin killing everything.
Oh,
He's like,
Mace, you die.
you
might die.
Yeah.
You die. You
It's like
get a
the school
saber in
shooter
me.
coming in. It's like he knows the list already, but he doesn't know when he's gonna wake up on the wrong side of the bed.
I mean, that's worthy of dropping a like, comment, subscribe right there.
He low-key got told, don't show up to school the next day.
Like, comment, subscribe. But that puts a bow on the arc.
Yep.
This series is going to be electric. I could talk about this stuff all day. This is just, at the end of the day, 3 guys really talking about Star Wars, really getting in the nitty-gritty. And that's why we're going to do this Discord. Now, I'm going to clip this because I don't know how many people are going to make it to the end of this video. But
Maybe we crack a joke once in a while, too.
we are going to get this Discord up and running. Only subs. You can slide onto the Discord. We're going to be doing giveaways on there. You can have dialogues with us. You can even come on the pod and talk if you want to connect with us through the Discord. But we're going to be having open posts about our book club. This is going to be a great series. There's so many arcs. Diving into the Clone Wars. It was inspired by Rob watching the Clone Wars. In my head, I go, all right, then we got to do a book club on it. If Rob's going to be watching the Clone Wars, it's time to all of us have a discussion about it. I thought this was a great arc to start on because I mean, think about us doing Siege of Mandalore first, Umbara first, Citadel first,
Night Sisters, like multiple
Night
arcs
Sisters,
there.
Savage Opress, the original Mandalore arc with Darth Maul. This is the most nerdy and the most in-depth lore Easter eggy arc, and a great one to start on. Cool. If you made it to the end, you're a goat. And yeah, LCS, like, comment, subscribe. We got a lot coming here in the future.